The most dangerous people are not the ones who hate you. They're the ones who understand you too well. They see the small, secret architecture of your self-regard, the hidden anchors of your identity, and the exact fault lines where your reality meets your deepest insecurities. And when they strike, it is not an attack on your body, or even your reputation. It is an act of erasure directed at the very foundation of your being. This is not a theoretical exercise. This is a cold, hard look at psychological tactics so potent, so devastatingly effective, that they are classified and controlled in the realms of espionage and cognitive warfare. Yet in the intimate, unpoliced territories of corporate boardrooms, social circles, and most tragically, relationships, they are deployed daily by those who seek not just advantage but absolute existential control. We are here today to discuss how to destroy someone psychologically, not to give you a weapon, but to reveal the weapons used against you. This is the difference between a predator and a sentinel. Knowledge of darkness is the only true armor in a dark world. Let us begin the dissection. Listen closely. The greatest weapon in the history of conflict has never been steel, gunpowder, or silicon. It has always been and remains the human mind. Specifically, the ability to understand another person's subjective reality so intimately that you can dismantle it from the inside out. The foundation of true psychological destruction is not cruelty, it is reversed empathy. Empathy is usually the mechanism of connection, seeing through another's eyes, feeling their world. But reversed empathy is seeing through their eyes only to locate the precise spot where their vision fails, where their confidence wavers, and where their foundational assumptions about life and self are weakest. It is the strategist's ultimate tool. Imagine a man who defines himself entirely by his professional competence. His identity is his title, his value is his output. The shadow strategist does not attack his work directly. They introduce a creeping, ambient doubt into his environment, causing others to subtly question his judgment on minor issues long before any major mistake occurs. By the time he faces a real challenge, his internal gyroscope is already spinning wildly off axis. He self-destructs, and the attacker never laid a finger on him. This is the level of insight we are pursuing. It is uncomfortable, yes, but if this insight opened your eyes to even the potential of vulnerability in your own life, hit the like button. Let the algorithm know you're not afraid of the truth. Carl Jung taught us about the shadow, the hidden, repressed, and usually negative parts of our personality. But we are concerned today with the ego, the conscious self, which is far more fragile. The ego is a story we tell ourselves and demand that the world confirms. It is where our values meet our vanity. The first step in psychological destruction is identifying the ego's critical supports. What does this person need to believe about themselves to function? 1. The competence anchor. I am capable. So target professional skills, financial stability, technical knowledge. 2. The morality anchor. Why am a good person. So target ethical choices, past indiscretions. 3. The social anchor. I am valued, loved. Target relationship, social status, belonging. A strategist does not target the whole person, they target the primary anchor. You find the one thing they cannot afford to lose: their professional reputation, their relationship with their child, their perception of being morally righteous, and you make that anchor appear unstable. The resulting fear is paralyzing, far more powerful than any externally applied force. Let's take the morality anchor. If a target believes they are a deeply moral person, the strategist will subtly engineer scenarios where the target is forced to make a small, morally ambiguous choice, or where an old, minor mistake is brought to light and repeatedly analyzed, not as a mistake, but as proof of a corrupt core. The target begins to spend all their energy defending their character rather than executing their goals. The self-defense consumes the self. In psychology, the locus of control refers to how strongly people believe they have control over the events that affect them. Internal locus of control. They believe they are responsible for their successes and failures. An external locus of control. They believe outside forces, fate, luck, other people determine their outcomes. Paradoxically, both are vulnerabilities when targeted correctly. The objective of psychological destruction is to shift an internal locus of control violently to an external locus of control. You want the target, who once controlled my destiny, to suddenly believe, I am a leaf in the wind subject to unknown hostile forces. Scenario: corporate sabotage. A highly successful, internally motivated manager's internal locus is targeted. The strategist subtly changes the criteria for success after key milestones are achieved, or removes resources after the manager has committed to a massive project. For example, the manager delivers a brilliant presentation that meets all specified targets. The next day, the strategist informs them, "That was good, but the metrics have changed. We now require 15% more engagement from an entirely different demographic." This is repeated several times. The manager is putting in maximum effort, but the goalpost is constantly moved by unseen hands. They start to ask, "What is the point of my effort? My success depends entirely on their capricious rules." The manager stops trusting their effort, descends into learned helplessness, and eventually quits or becomes inert, destroyed by the realization that their competence is meaningless against arbitrary power. Drop a brain emoji in the comments if you're learning something new about this invisible layer of human motivation. Cognitive dissonance is the mental stress or discomfort experienced by an individual who holds two or more contradictory beliefs, ideas, or values. Your mind must resolve this discomfort. The most potent form of psychological destruction weaponizes this dissonance against the target's identity. The goal is to force a conflict between what they do and what they believe they are. The setup: the strategist forces the target to commit a small, seemingly justifiable action that violates a core unspoken moral belief. Example: a colleague deeply values honesty. The strategist gives them a minor task that requires a tiny white lie, saying a certain budget report is under review when it hasn't even been started, to placate a demanding client. The lie is innocuous, yet the target has now acted dishonestly. The dissonance: A belief, A core identity. I am an honest person. Action: B observed reality. I just lied. To resolve this, the mind has two choices. 1. Accept the action was wrong. This leads to guilt and self-loathing, attacking the core. I am good. 2. Change the belief. This is the destructive pathway. The person rationalizes the lie: well, honesty isn't always the highest value. Sometimes protecting the client, company, myself is more important. Lying is just a tool. By forcing the second path, the strategist has not just destroyed the person's performance, they have subtly corrupted their moral operating system. Their self-concept is damaged, making them easier to control and less trustworthy to themselves. The moral destruction precedes the social one. But what happens next when these foundational vulnerabilities are exploited not individually, but in a systematic, sustained campaign? We must examine the dark strategies embodied by the dark triad itself. This will change how you see human behavior forever. We move now from the vulnerabilities of the victim to the specific tools of the operator. The dark triad, Machiavellianism, narcissism, and psychopathy, are not mere personality flaws, they are the strategic blueprints for psychological control. Each offers a unique angle on human destruction. Niccolo Machiavelli's genius was in seeing politics, and by extension all human interaction, as a purely technical exercise in power acquisition and maintenance. The Machiavellian strategist sees people as instruments to be used, not souls to be cared for. Their primary destructive tool is calculated isolation, leading to social death. A human being's sense of self is fundamentally social. Remove the external mirrors, the friends, colleagues, and family who confirm their reality, and the self begins to dissolve. The tactic: calculated isolation. This is a three-stage strategy. 1. The seeding of doubt. The strategist doesn't attack the target directly to others. Instead, they strategically praise the target's past qualities while subtly mentioning a recent behavioral shift. John used to be so sharp, but lately he seems distracted and a little paranoid. Don't you think? This plants a seed. The target is not bad, but they are breaking. 2. The emotional containment in personal relationships. The strategist isolates the target from primary support systems. They create conflicts, demand exclusivity of time, or subtly demonize the target's friends, family, labeling them as jealous or unsupportive. The target is conditioned to believe the strategist is the only source of truth and safety. 3. The social cut-off. The strategist executes a pre-planned, dramatic public break or manufactured incident, using the previously seeded doubt as justification. Since the target's behavior was already subtly called into question, the social circle accepts the strategist's version. We tried to help him, but he's clearly spiraling. The relatable scenario: the manager in disgrace. A successful, well-liked manager is targeted. The strategist, a rival, doesn't confront the manager. Instead, the strategist goes to key collaborators and says, "I'm worried about Sarah. She snapped at me in private the other day, and she keeps moving documents around on the shared drive. I think the stress is getting to her. Maybe don't give her anything high stakes for a few weeks, just until she stabilizes." The colleagues, acting from a place of concern, sideline Sarah. She is excluded from meetings, her work is reassigned, and her attempts to ask why are met with patronizing reassurances. "Just take it easy, Sarah. We've got this." Her isolation is complete, and she did it to herself by reacting to the fear, confirming the initial observation of paranoia or instability. This leads to social death, a profound loneliness where the only validation available is the one offered by the strategist. This level of calculated planning reveals an emotional coldness that is unnerving. If you value your privacy, your peace, or your social network, comment your take below. Would you use this tactic or protect yourself from it? Narcissism, in this dark context, is the weaponization of self-absorption. The narcissist's world must be perfect, therefore, any flaw, mistake, or inconvenient truth must be transferred to the target. Their destructive tool is gaslighting, the systematic erosion of the target's grip on reality. Gaslighting is not simply lying. It is a three-step process that exploits the human need for consistency and trust, making it one of the most effective techniques banned in psychological interrogation and warfare. 1. Denial and counter-assertion. The strategist flatly denies something they clearly said or did, and immediately replaces it with a confident, fabricated memory. "I never agreed to that budget. You must have dreamt that conversation." 2. Projection and blame. When the target expresses confusion, the strategist immediately attributes the confusion to the target's failing memory or mental state. "You're too sensitive. You're always making things up. You have a terrible memory." 3. The external validation block. Crucially, the strategist ensures that any external evidence the target seeks is undermined or controlled. They may hide car keys, delete messages, or destroy minor pieces of evidence, creating a world where the target knows they are right but has no proof. The scenario, the relationship nightmare. A partner is targeted. The strategist repeatedly moves an item, say car keys or a wallet, and then, when the partner searches frantically, the strategist finds it, placing it where it should have been. "Honey, it was right here the whole time. You must be really tired." This sounds innocuous, but when this tactic is applied to conversations, promises, and agreements over months, the target starts to distrust their own memory, their senses, and ultimately their sanity. They develop an internal voice that says, "Maybe I am crazy. Maybe I am too sensitive. Maybe they are right, and I am the unstable one." When the target's internal reality dissolves, they become completely reliant on the strategist to define what is real. This is absolute psychological capture. The self is not just wounded, it is outsourced. Psychopathy, defined not by violence but by a chilling lack of conscience, empathy, and affect, offers the third great destructive tool, intermittent reinforcement. This is the method used to create an unbreakable trauma bond, often studied in victims of cults and long-term abuse. Humans are naturally predictive. We seek patterns and expect rewards for specific behaviors in our work hard, get paid. Intermittent reinforcement deliberately breaks this predictive framework by providing affection, reward, or kindness randomly and without correlation to the target's behavior. The tactic, the cycle of reward and abuse. The strategy requires the strategist to oscillate between extremes. 1. Devaluation, the stressor, unjustified, cold, and cruel behavior. The strategist withdraws affection, criticizes viciously, or disappears without explanation. This creates immense fear and craving in the target. 2. The random reward, the hook lead. Just when the target is about to collapse or leave, the strategist suddenly returns with exaggerated affection, lavish praise, or a demonstration of extreme vulnerability, replicating the initial love-bombing stage. Why this is destructive? The target's brain stops associating good behavior with reward and instead associates the strategist's presence with the possibility of reward. The target becomes addicted not to the good times, but to the cycle itself. They begin to chase the relief from the punishment, convincing themselves that if they just try harder, they can stabilize the reward and eliminate the punishment. The high-stakes corporate negotiation scenario is a perfect example. A psychopathic manager will set an employee up for success, praising them publicly. The next day, they will viciously attack them in a meeting, making them doubt their entire career. The day after that, they will give them a massive, challenging project, saying, "I know you're the only one who can do this." The employee becomes hooked on proving themselves, forever chasing the return to the good phase, creating a state of internal turmoil where their energy is spent trying to decode the strategist's mood rather than performing their actual job. The result is a trauma bond. The target is psychologically destroyed by their own desperate, neurological pursuit of predictability and safety within a system designed for chaos. Subscribe, because the next lesson will make you rethink everything you believe about self-preservation and the history of power. The theoretical dissection is now complete. We must now elevate these tactics to the historical and modern stage to observe them in their most potent and often most terrifying forms. We will see the echo of the dark triad in history's most effective manipulators. The power to destroy a mind is often not about direct confrontation, but about managing the environment and the authority structure. The infamous Milgram experiment showed that ordinary people, under the direction of an authority figure, were willing to inflict what they believed were lethal electric shocks on innocent victims. What did Milgram's setup destroy? It destroyed the subject's moral anchor and their internal locus of control simultaneously. Cult leaders and psychological destruction. Cult leaders operate on this principle. They don't try to change the subject's fundamental beliefs immediately. Instead, they demand small, seemingly insignificant acts of compliance that violate minor moral boundaries. A step once the test, get the new member to lie to a family member about their whereabouts. A small violation of honesty. And step 2, the escalation, get them to give away a minor possession to the group. A small violation of financial responsibility. And step 3, the capture, get them to cut off all contact with a suspicious friend. A major social isolation. By the time the leader demands a truly destructive act, like giving up a life savings or participating in a criminal act, the target's moral anchor has been so eroded by a series of small, rationalized choices that they cannot object. They have resolved the cognitive dissonance by shifting their core identity. I am no longer governed by the old world's morality. I am governed by the authority of this higher truth leader. The individual is psychologically destroyed, replaced by a compliant unit. This is the ultimate proof that the destruction of the self is achieved through thousands of small, calculated concessions, not one grand attack. The modern corporate environment is Machiavelli's playground. The executive takedown or the sabotage of a competitor is rarely a frontal assault. It is a slow, strategic process often aimed at destroying the target's reputation, their professional self. The relatable scenario, the death by 1,000 emails. A high-potential executive, Sarah, is a threat. The strategist, a rival, cannot fire her or directly criticize her performance, which is excellent. Instead, the strategist uses the weapon of unattainable standards, Machiavellianism. The strategist begins praising Sarah excessively in public, framing her as the gold standard. They then begin assigning her projects that require resources she does not have or timelines she cannot possibly meet, while setting an impossibly high standard for her performance. The higher they elevate her, the harder she falls when she inevitably misses the impossible goal. The weapon of exclusion and ambiguity, gaslighting. The strategist holds a key meeting about Sarah's project, but forgets to invite her or sends the invite to the wrong calendar. When she objects, the strategist feigns confusion. "Oh, did you not get the update? I swore I sent it. My apologies, your inbox must be a mess." This repeated, subtle exclusion makes Sarah look incompetent and unreliable, eroding her social anchor among peers who think she just missed the meeting. The ultimate destruction comes when Sarah, exhausted and paranoid, commits a minor error, a frustrated email, a missed deadline. The strategist uses that single, small mistake as proof of the pattern they meticulously created. Sarah's competence, the thing she lived for, is destroyed, and the strategist appears only as the reluctant, sorrowful observer. If you've ever watched a brilliant colleague suddenly falter and disappear, you have witnessed this play. In personal relationships, the goal of psychological destruction is to ensure the target remains in the relationship, but completely subservient. This is where intermittent reinforcement becomes deadly. The tactic, manufacturing despair. This is a calculated effort to remove all external sources of happiness and self-worth, making the strategist the target's singular connection to reality. 1. The humiliation ritual. The strategist targets the specific, private things the target is most proud of: a niche hobby, a physical feature, an academic achievement. They don't just criticize, they ridicule and anchor the ridicule with a cruel nickname or phrase. Your painting is just a hobby for people who need more attention. This forces the target to withdraw from that source of pride. 2. The emotional blackmail loop. The strategist creates a dynamic where they are perpetually hurt or disappointed by the target's attempts at independence. If the target gets a promotion, the strategist sulks, saying, "You're never here anymore. Clearly, your career is more important than my happiness." The target is forced to choose between self-actualization and the strategist's emotional stability. 3. The inversion of responsibility. The strategist destroys the target's ability to self-advocate. Every complaint or attempt at asserting a boundary is met with a flawless deflection. "I only treat you this way because you push me to it." The target believes they are responsible for the abuse, leading to a profound state of self-blame and despair. The ultimate psychological destruction here is that the target achieves a state of learned helplessness. They believe change is impossible, and that they deserve the pain because they are the root cause of the strategist's unhappiness. They are destroyed, yet they stay. We have explored the methods. We have seen the case studies. But now, we must address the law of unintended consequences, the hidden dangers that make these tactics a poison pill for the strategist who deploys them. For the cold-blooded strategist, the moral dimension is irrelevant, but the strategic dimension is all that matters. And strategically, the decision to engage in psychological destruction is fraught with perilous risks that often turn the weapon back upon the user. No psychological campaign is perfectly contained. The most cunning strategist often overlooks the simple physics of human energy. What you put out comes back, often mutated. 1. The corrosion of trust. The moment you engage in systematic manipulation, you sever your own connection to authentic reality. You cannot trust others because you know how easily people can be manipulated, and you cannot trust yourself because you are constantly performing an elaborate role. Machiavelli warned that a prince should avoid being hated, but a strategist who destroys people cannot help but attract a toxic field of suspicion and potential enemies. 2. The creation of a monster. Sometimes the target doesn't break, they transform. The destruction forces them to shed their naivete, their faith, and their trust in humanity. If they survive the psychological destruction, they often emerge with a ruthless, purely instrumental view of the world, a mirror image of the strategist. You have not destroyed a victim, you have created a formidable, highly motivated and vengeance-driven enemy. This enemy knows your methods because they have lived through them. 3. The social reckoning. While subtle manipulation is effective, it requires immense effort to maintain. Eventually, the pattern of destroyed relationships, the constant need to explain inconsistencies, and the trail of instability left in your wake forms a meta-pattern. Society, or the relevant group, may not know what you are doing, but they know who you are. You become radioactive, a beautiful, brilliant entity that everyone must eventually keep at a distance. The strategist is thus destroyed by their own toxic reputation, even if no single act can be proven. The ultimate cost of psychological warfare is to the operator's soul, which is to say, their strategic capacity. To successfully destroy another person's mind, you must intimately study, inhabit, and execute the mechanisms of their pain. You must become fluent in coldness, denial, and calculated cruelty. This practice dulls your own capacity for genuine connection, risk assessment, and authentic insight. The true strategist requires the ability to see things as they are. But the practitioner of psychological destruction becomes addicted to the performance of power. They surround themselves with the broken and the obedient, mistaking compliance for respect and fear for influence. This warped vision leads to strategic blunders, often due to a failure to predict the actions of those who operate outside the manipulation loop. Napoleon was brilliant at manipulating courts, but he failed against the brutal, unromantic reality of the Russian winter. A reality he could not deceive or control. The greatest power is self-control. The most dangerous temptation is to prove that you possess the power to destroy. Choosing not to deploy the weapon even when capable, is the ultimate expression of strategic dominance. It preserves your own integrity and clarity, which are your most vital assets. The tactics of destruction are clear. The moral cost is profound. But the question remains, how does one build a fortress against the unseen siege? The final lesson is on how to make yourself unassailable. If the methods of destruction are to target the ego, the locus of control, and the moral anchor, the defense must be the systematic strengthening of these three pillars of the self. The first defense against a psychological attack is not strength, but observation. You must become the detached scientist of your own life, analyzing the data objectively. 1. The check for confusion. If you are consistently, profoundly confused about what you said, what happened, or what you agreed to, stop. Confusion is the primary symptom of gaslighting. When you feel confused, do not seek clarification from the source of the confusion. Seek physical, external, and objective documentation. Write it down immediately, record it if possible, or consult a neutral third party. 2. The check for isolation. If you find yourself consistently cutting off relationships with people who genuinely care about you, and if you are constantly defending your primary relationship or environment to outsiders, you are under siege. A healthy relationship expands your life, a destructive one contracts it. 3. The check for effort vs reward. If you are giving maximum effort, yet constantly feel like you are failing because the rules keep changing, recognize the pattern of the moving goalpost. The problem is not your competence, it is the environment's structural sabotage. You are trapped in a system of manufactured learned helplessness. Recognizing the pattern means you deny the strategist the ability to define your reality. You stop focusing on the content of the argument and start focusing on the structure of the manipulation. Boundaries are not requests, they are declarations of self-governance. They are the psychological walls that prevent the strategist from accessing your core vulnerabilities. 1. The boundary of self-definition. Against narcissism, never allow another person's opinion, mood, or needs to define your worth. If a gaslighter calls you too sensitive, your internal response is, that is their opinion, based on their need for me to stop questioning them. It does not reflect my objective reality. Your truth is not up for negotiation. 2. The boundary of action against Machiavellianism. When confronted with a demand that violates a core value, the moral anchored, refuse the small request immediately. Do not be tempted by the minor compromise. If the task requires a tiny lie, you say no. The destruction begins with the tiny, seemingly justified violation. Refusing the small thing is the only way to avoid being cornered into the big one. 3. The boundary of prediction against psychopathy. When dealing with intermittent reinforcement, you must treat the random kindness as irrelevant noise. When the strategist is cruel, you plan your exit. When they return with exaggerated affection, you do not let the reward negate the pain. You anchor yourself to the pattern of abuse, not the random acts of kindness. The affection is a distraction, not a reality. The final and deepest defense is radical acceptance. The acceptance of your own inherent flaws, your shadow. If you destroy your own illusion of perfection, the strategist has nothing to attack. Why do narcissistic attacks work? Because we fear the exposed truth of our flaws. If someone calls you a failure and you secretly believe it, the attack lands. But if you have already accepted, yes, I have failed many times, I am imperfect, and I am still capable of greatness, the accusation is rendered inert. Jungian integration is the process of consciously acknowledging your own shadow, the selfish, lazy, insecure, or vengeful parts of yourself. By bringing the darkness into the light of consciousness, you steal the weapon from the enemy. They cannot expose what you have already revealed to yourself. This is the ultimate psychological immunity. When you define your own reality and accept your own darkness, you become an unassailable fortress. We have walked through the forbidden chambers of the human mind, identifying the pressure points and the levers of control. We have seen how the ego is dismantled, how reality is eroded, and how a dependency is forged through chaos and pain. The knowledge shared today is inherently dangerous, like understanding the mechanisms of a nuclear reactor. It offers immense power, but demands absolute responsibility. The true genius of the master strategist, the Machiavellian prince who endures, is not in their ability to destroy, but in their ability to restrain. Destruction is crude, wasteful, and temporary. The truly powerful figure understands that the greatest influence is achieved not by breaking others, but by creating an environment where others choose to align their desires with yours without realizing their choice was ever managed. The constant need to dismantle others reveals a deep, consuming insecurity within the strategist himself, a self-inflicted wound. The man who needs to see others broken to feel whole is already strategically destroyed. So, the ultimate lesson of this long, dark journey is this: you do not need to destroy others to rise. You only need to refuse to be destroyed. Choose clarity over confusion, choose boundaries over compliance, and choose the strength of self-acceptance over the fragile tyranny of forced control. If this final lesson resonates with you, I urge you to subscribe, because the next lesson will make you rethink everything you believe about authentic power and the subtle, invisible laws that govern human nature. I leave you with this final paradox, the core of all dark strategy. The one who seeks control over all things finds control of nothing. The one who masters only himself rules the world.